Welcome to What Happens Next, the show dedicated to exploring the nuanced challenges we all face, often in our 50s and 60s, when we're thinking about the next chapter of our lives. I started What Happens Next because I realised that when we were working with the clients, a lot of the challenges that they were facing, we weren't talking about. We were talking about the financial challenges and working out how much is enough and helping them navigate the complex maze to get there, but often not talking about where purpose comes from and how values fit into our later lives and well-being more generally. So What Happens Next is all about exploring a lot of those challenges and getting on experts to help us understand what we might want to think about in that next chapter. And I'm really pleased to have Bec Wilson on today. How are you, Bec?
Thank you for having me. I'm very well. The end of my day in Australia and the beginning of yours.
It's the start of ours. Yeah, I'm not in my pajamas. I didn't get ready for the interview, which is a good thing. But actually 7:30 a.m. is the cusp. Any earlier, I would have been in my gym jams. But I'm not.
It's the perfect crossover with Australia. This is the time I do all my good meetings with the UK.
so it sounds like you're having a busy time of it at the minute with the books and like launching in different countries. What's just so I can pick really good questions, what question have you been asked whilst promoting the book that surprised you the most?
Well, the book I've released most recently is called Prime Time. So it's a concept that I haven't brought to the UK yet. And I think the UK people know a bit about epic retirements and how to have them and how to hunt them. And we're going to bring that book to the UK this year. But Prime Time has been an interesting journey because people have wanted a stage before the finish line. And I don't think we've given them the choice or the language to speak about a 10-year period before they retire in a way that's not just planning for the finish line, but is about living it at the same time as planning for the future. So the biggest part is, can I really do this? Do I have what it takes to have a good life now and have a retirement as well? And can I have all this flexibility? Does it really happen like this? And I think that's fair. We've got to ask ourselves whether we're the first generation to have a prime time to be able to be a bit more selfish in our 50s. And for most of us, it's because of these new retirement systems that have come into Australia and the UK to help us save earlier and to build up wealth a little earlier. And the UK is behind Australia on that path, but it's not far behind.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you would have spoken to my parents or potentially your parents, that conversation about having more flexibility about time, and I'm 48, but having more flexibility about time in our 40s and 50s would have been a bit of an anomaly for them. It would have been, well, actually, no, I'm still at work until X age.
Yeah.
Well, I think our generation are challenging that a bit more and saying, why? If we can have a bit more balance of both time and money, why are we not looking at that?
Well, just the numbers tell you that people aren't retiring by choice today. They're retiring because they didn't make a plan early enough and then life happened to them, right? Only 31% of people in Australia and 31% of people in the UK retire by choice. The rest, retirement happens to because you didn't plan it before it got you, right? And I would much rather people not go into retirement with busted egos because they got retrenched that they didn't see coming in a way that they didn't see coming, didn't adapt their career paths to be more suitable to their physical, cognitive, or health capabilities, or that they didn't make financial plans for. Therefore, they don't feel enabled in having a good retirement. So, we can do better. We can help people understand the journey, but not just about retirement. I can talk ad nauseum about the phase before, where I now think there's 3 phases before retirement, and then there's your epic retirement. And I think we can get everybody excited about that in midlife when they've got a little bit more money coming back out of the mortgage, the kids are flying off and you're spending less on them. And maybe, and you can find ways to allocate that cash.
Not mine.
Not, I'm spending less on school fees and
Yeah.
activities, and the money's changed where it goes, right? I
Yeah.
still buy the food and I still do all those things. Mine are 22 and down to 17. And, you know, there's a lot less going out in school fees and structured big chunks now. It's
Yeah.
more incremental, and the kids are paying for all their own clothes and all things that I didn't sort of account for coming back to my own budget.
Yeah.
And rather than suddenly have that money just get frittered away, because it does if you don't stop and allocate it to something, you can actually use it to build up your pension pot. You can use it to pay down the mortgage. You can use it to get ahead so that you get this phase after you do your setup phase in this stage of life that I call your lifestyling phase. I mean, I reckon it's only a phase that you get to have if you do a bit of the hard work earlier.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For those in our audience who don't know who you are, can you tell me a little bit about how you got to this position, how you started writing the books, and what brought you to become fascinated with this subject?
Yeah. So it actually started like 16, 17 years ago. I was running a marketing business that was advising CEOs how to grow their businesses. And I kept saying to all these CEOs and strategy teams of consultancy firms, there's two big economic trends you need to work on. The baby boomers are going to change everything, and they're going to need more services and more this and more that. And oil and gas, it's going to change everything. And, you know, if you're in either industry, you need to start thinking about the strategic future in those sectors. And after sitting in the marketing, I started to look at my parents going, wow, you're 60. You use the internet, you participate online, but there's nothing for you. There's nobody talking to you. You want information. And this was 15 years ago when News Limited had Kim Kardashian on the front cover every single day of the week. You know, this was an era where they didn't think 50-year-olds were their target audience in newspapers at the time. And so I started a little blog, and it was a $40 template, and we gradually did it on the side of my other job or business, and it turned into Australia's largest media platform for over 60s, which was a journey in itself. It was like a BuzzFeed for over 60s, with a whole lot of community writers and then journalists. And then we built a travel company, like a mini saga for over 60s, where group travel, all this stuff, right? 10 years of experience, maybe a bit longer, venture funding, all that pain. I ended up the boss of 35 people, a wonderful privilege, but an exhausting business model, which moved under us as I did it. And I decided after 10 or 12 years that I wasn't the right person to run that business anymore. It was time, after getting the business through a COVID and out the other side, to take my next step. And my next step was into a transition. You know, transitions are tough, and you go, who am I when I'm not running a business? Oh, maybe I should find a project, which is what I recommend to anyone going through a transition, to help you bridge the transition. And I'd turned down a book deal several years before, and the board had thought it wasn't a very good idea. So I went back and approached the publisher and said, maybe I could do a book. Maybe I could write a book that is the essential information nobody tells anybody about this stage of life, the guidebook, if you say, to retirement. And think of it like what to expect when you're expecting for the next phase of life, not for having a baby where you only change one room in your car, but for retirement where every single thing in your life changes.
So interesting. You know, that element of transition you made from building that business to then getting to a point where you went,
this isn't what I want to do.
Might not be for me anymore.
No.
It sounds like you went through, and I'm thinking about the transition a lot of my clients go through in their 50s and 60s, because I remember having a conversation with a client a couple of years ago now, and we built his financial plan. He knew he'd never run out of money again. He was absolutely fine financially. And every year he used to come to me back and say, I'm just not happy at work. And I'd say to him, Steve, I've said for a couple of years now, you're going to be okay money-wise. So help me understand what's stopping you moving on to that next stage of your life, whatever that looks like for you. And he looked at me and went, what am I if I'm not that? And And it's
really scary. Like, I was terrified.
Yeah.
But I did have a quite quick ending. There was a process that needed to happen with shareholders changing. And in the end, I put my hand up and I said, look, if that's going to be how it works, I should step out, right? And that frightening process, right? Because I was the
How did you manage that emotionally? How did you manage
really
that?
hard, but I went to ground like most people would. And I went to ground, and I did get a psychologist who kept me straight and sane on what was up and where I needed to focus my energy, because otherwise you focus internally. And if you can focus externally on things that are important to you, on your values and your passions, and the things we teach people as they approach retirement, this is where, you know, I knew a lot of the theory because I'd written for retirees for 15 years, right? And I'd been the expert in the country, the media company in the country doing it, but I'd got off the tools. I had been 5 years at the business end, not doing what I loved, grinding the wheel, juggling the staff, the budgets, nobody wants to do that in business. And I've declared I'm not going back there. That is not the jobs I want to do. I love making the ways that people can learn and
100%.
meeting them where they are and taking them to a place where they're confident. And that to me is so much joy in the journey I've had since. Like, it's been 3 years that I did that now, and I wrote the book, and I didn't know if anyone would read it. And bless my publisher, amazing publisher, Hachette in Australia, took a risk on me and said, yeah, we'll publish that. I think you could do it, Bec. And I'd had to step away from all the followers I had back then and start all over again with a fresh new social media profile and everything. And Epic Retirement caught on. It caught on.
I thank for this, because I love the fact that even though the theory's there, it's always emotionally more difficult putting it into practice, right? And the fact that we need to be open and honest about that is really important, I think.
Yeah, now, change is hard, right? It's really hard. And for anybody going through it, I feel like I went through a full transition, you know, an ending that I had to accept, a middle zone or a neutral zone where I had to soak in it and go, well, I'm just going to try stuff. I'm going to go meet people. I'm going to hang with people. I'm going to see. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to read stuff. I think I want modern aging to be the thing I do next, but I have no idea because there's nowhere to go in Australia. Nobody's doing anything on modern aging. I want people to age better. How could I do this? How could I follow a path? And, you know.
But you know what's interesting for me? Like, even in the UK, I mean, we're both in modern, sophisticated Western economies, and nobody's having this conversation. There's a few odd people having this conversation, but there's millions of people who are going to go on this journey over the next couple of years, next few years. So why are we not having better, more nuanced conversations? We're doing our bit, Bec.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more we talk, it's funny. I started this Facebook group, must have been about 18 months ago, because I didn't want to be on social media as my primary, because I'd run a massive social media Facebook algorithm, dare I say it, and that's my nightmare. Like, I never ever want to be tied to an algorithm ever again for a business. That's just never do it. Horrible, horrible, horrible business. And so I started a Facebook group because I wanted to know what people said as they went into retirement. I wanted to hear them thinking, because I was used to that. And it kind of took off and it went viral globally. And that's what's pulled me into the UK, is that so many of the people in the Epic Retirement Club, they've all joined it online. Right. And have you been in there? Have you seen it?
Here's the weird thing. For my own personal mental health, I'm not, apart from LinkedIn, I'm not on any social media.
I congratulate you for that. It's a bastard of a thing. But I have 600,000 people in that Facebook group now. Yeah, and it gets something like 50 million people involved in it in a month. And so they are seeing the posts and engaging with each other's retirements and talking and learning from each other, which I feel the nuanced conversation is happening now. And
I love that. And actually, one of the advantages of social media is the power of community, the power of building community and helping each other in a positive environment. And again, we know that social media is not always that, but in a positive environment, like groups like yours. And I've heard amazing things about it. Just a very quick story. My team put our stuff out on social media. I just don't see it. And I managed to embarrass my 13-year-old the other day because apparently I'm on TikTok. I haven't got a clue about this. Apparently I'm on TikTok. And Sophie got one of her friends turning around and going, that's not your dad, is it? What's he doing on TikTok? I was like,
My kids
okay.
have had to live with that shame for all their lives.
Peak dad embarrassment there. Peak dad embarrassment. Now, you talk a lot about epic retirement. So help me understand, what, in your perspective, does an epic retirement look like?
Look, an epic retirement has 6 pillars, and it goes far beyond the money, right? You've got to get the money right, but the money is just the enabler. I'll be honest. And so even if you're rich, you don't necessarily get an epic retirement. An epic retirement is in your attitude, it's in your spirit, and it's in how you approach retirement. And so I'll talk you through the 6 pillars. The first one is understanding your longevity or time, and how time is going to impact your life. How long are you going to live? What are you going to do? How's time going to factor in? Who are you going to do it with? All of the goal setting components actually come from understanding time, not money. Right? Yeah. People think they've got to plan their money. It's like, but if you walk into a financial advisor's office, they say, so what are your goals? And people immediately go, well, I've got £323,000 in my pot and I want to know what I can do with it. I own my own home outright. What should my goals be? And I just don't think that's where we start retirement planning. We start retirement planning back at, well, what do you want life to be like? What do you want to choose? And for a lot of people, that's a really esoteric question.
I think the reason people are more comfortable with starting the conversation with the money is because it's tangible, isn't it? But
absolutely,
actually, how you want to spend your life in that next chapter, because what's the finite resource? The finite resource is time. Right?
It's time, right?
And actually having a better conversation about how we spend our time is, I think, the way to start.
It's where I start everything. Every time I talk, I start with time. And I get everybody very excited about time because they go, wow, that's so much time. I better do some planning. Right. And that is, very much in our courses. We start with time. We've really turned epic retirement into a whole kind of way of thinking about retirement. So you start with time, and then you work on money and financial confidence, because it's not just about having money. It's about having the confidence of how your money is going to work in the systems that you're in, so that you can make choices. Because if you don't make active choices, life happens to you, but it doesn't happen to you in the way where you get to use that time in a really cool manner, right? And most of retirement is about making choices. And often, because we don't talk about the choices, I'm not really sure why, the people make a lot of mistakes because they just haven't had the information they needed when they were making the choices to make the right choice. So they either don't make choices, they're afraid, and then life happens to them.
Yeah, sure. And what do you think the most common mistakes that happen are?
Well, I mean, the biggest problem we've got in Australia, and it's different to the one in the UK where you've got not quite big enough pots yet, right? So the first mistake is not knowing how to use your system to get money in to the system right? So in your system, that's a big problem. And if we could just get people comfortable with choosing to prioritize their pension system earlier and knowing how it would benefit them, knowing how the tax deductions work effectively to deliver them a benefit, knowing how investment can grow their money, knowing how that will give them power and choice later, knowing when they can access it and what the power they have to not be afraid of using it. But then we start to have, you've got adequacy and investment. Then we've got the next conversation, which is getting people to feel okay to spending their money when all they've done, the other half of their life is save it or squirrel it or try to be careful with it, right?
I was having this conversation with a guy that I think we both know, a guy called Dan Hylett in the UK.
Oh, I love him.
Brilliant, amazing. I've literally just finished reading his book.
Me too.
And our experiences, shared experiences with clients, are both actually, if you've had this saving habit, and we having enough is a really fortunate place to be in. And I say fortunate.
And not everyone in the UK has enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably, Dan and I probably work with the minority who do. But there is a lot more people who have.
And my books are for the people who have all different levels. So I will talk to people who have a very little, who are trying to make it through by understanding the systems and juggling a small pot with a state pension and put the pieces together. And they often can't afford premium advice, right? So they have to learn as the only way through, or use their pension funds limited services as well.
But also that element of people who have enough, but the stories they tell themselves about the money and the habits they've got into doesn't facilitate an epic retirement,
No.
because they was like, I don't want to feel that I'm in a position where I'm not going to have enough. And that emotional challenge is an interesting one as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you've got to teach them how to navigate that goal setting using money. It's okay. Gradually release, trust the process. What are your annual processes for checking whether you're okay? And then build in kind of windows of goal setting. And I think it's quite exciting what we can teach people who do have enough. But I also think it's exciting to teach people who have only just an amount to get them a comfortable life about how they can use what they've got well.
100%.
Because life doesn't have to be small just because you have a small pot, right? It can be, it's all about how proactive you are.
Yeah.
Right. There is so many holidays and trips and things we can do that don't cost a lot. There's so many ways of participating and being proactive and taking advantage of the things around you that maybe we forget to do in midlife. We get a little closed and incurious, and unless we go through the shock of a transition, we sometimes don't come out the other side.
I think mindset matters more than we think. That you've mentioned it a couple of times, but that element of curiosity.
That's one of my favorite words.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? It's such an interesting one, because I look at my kids as inspiration of them, because I think about how they still, and not so much now they're a bit older, but how they play. And I actually think revisiting that concept of play as we get into our midlife is a really interesting one. Because that just, what can life give us now? Not ignoring the money, being strategic and logical and making sure we do that, but also being curious about what life can give us in these next chapters. Really, really exciting. So it talks about a couple of pillars.
I talked about time, talked about money. Then we have which one comes next? So it's either health or work. So let's talk about health. So we talk about our health, because you actually can't have an epic retirement without your health, right?
Yeah.
And we often prioritize all the other things, and then we go, I'll look after my health when I retire. It's like, oh, come on. And there's some really cool stuff on health. It's not just the boring stuff on health. For me, the science of modern aging is telling us how we can slow down aging in our bodies and look after and reverse some of the things that happen that are more likely to be precursors to chronic disease. So teaching people about this science, so it's not all unachievable, don't want to make the effort kind of stuff. In fact, it's stuff you can do. It's stuff you can do in every day. It's stuff that's going to make a massive difference to your 70 or 80-year-old body. Get in there and make that your priority, as well 100%. As your money and your other things. So health is very important to me. There's a couple of different pieces to health in the book, and in everything I teach. And I try to sit on the very cutting edge, finding the latest. I follow all the latest Lancet and the latest scientific studies on everything in modern aging, so that I can speak about it with a level of wisdom that people can trust, and that isn't just me making it up. Then there's purpose and happiness. And increasingly, in my next book, I bring in the concept of work, purpose, and happiness, because I don't think we stop working at retirement anymore. I think the idea that retirement and work are mutually exclusive is actually something that gets debated in my Facebook group all the time. And I want to throttle the people who've given up on the idea of working, even if it's unpaid. Like, work plays a really powerful and valuable role in people's lives, and it's a choice. There's no wrong way to do retirement. There's only your way.
I was talking about this the other day. That idea, that concept of learn, earn, stop, isn't healthy for us.
No.
It isn't healthy for the people around us. And just think about, Bec, the amount of experience, wisdom, expertise that leaves because people are still following that model. What are your thoughts about that traditional industrial?
I think it's completely wrong. And prime time is very much about how, and I had the Australian Age Discrimination Commissioner on my show just the other day to talk about it, because I really believe we're still stuck in an old world in ageism. And we have to break a few things while we're 48 and 50 and things like that. While we're in jobs where we have the power to break a few things in society, I think we need our prime timers to break a few things. and come in and say, well, you know what, we're not going to tolerate ageism anymore. We're going to work out how to mix teams. We're going to bring people along who would like part-time jobs. We're going to help the discussion of retirement open up in the workplace, because people don't talk about retiring in their workplace until they do it. Yeah. And if that's because they're afraid of getting put on the shelf or getting put out to pasture or getting not put on the coolest projects. And, you know, frankly, we deserve to have mature, experienced people on the best projects, and they can be working 2 days a week, and they can have declared that in 3 years they might like to retire.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting though, because I think when I look at 48, and again, I think when you run your own thing, it's slightly different, because you've got a bit of a freedom.
You have confidence to make your own choices, right?
True. And I do 4 days a week. Fridays I play paddle tennis badly, but
I promised really myself I'm going to take up pickleball this year. And I'm going to do, I'm now almost out of year with all the travel I've got to do. So I'm going to do one lesson before the end of the year if it kills me.
Brilliant. What a goal. I love it. I haven't tried pickleball yet. I'm a bit obsessed with paddle tennis at the minute, and I love it.
There you go.
I play paddle tennis and I have a couple of games.
Is paddle tennis table tennis?
No, it's a mixture between tennis and squash. So
that sounds good.
No, it's really good. Look it up. It's incredible.
Okay, I've not come across it. That's cool.
Really, really big in Spain. I'm going to send you a YouTube video.
All right.
Really big in Spain and Portugal. Really popular at the minute in the UK. Wow. When you're over next year, I'll take you.
All right. I'll practice pickleballing and then we can go.
So you can take me to pickleball. I'll take you to paddle tennis.
Nice. Love it.
So yeah, really good, really good sport. But the interesting thing is, so it's really interesting. So Friday and Saturday for me were, and again, I think talking to people about these subjects in the real world is really interesting. So Friday morning I played paddle tennis. There was some guys there who were in their 60s and 70s playing and being super fit. And you look at that and you go, your health point about underpinning everything is really interesting, because they're really practical examples. And then I was doing some fundraising. So where I live on the Essex coast, there's a place called Southend. Nice. We were at the football club fundraising for a local homeless charity. And I was with a lady called Pam, where we were doing some fundraising. I was just like, so Pam's 68, and I was saying to Pam, tell me about your life, right? Tell me what, like, sort of, and she civil servant, she'd retired, she'd got a decent pension, and everything was paid for. And she saw work as positive contribution to her local community. And I think this work, as in 5 days a week job stuff, doesn't need to be the factor in any aspects of life.
I teach people about a continuum. So I had a course last night, and I have about 400 people on my current course. And so about 200 of them were in a live session last night where we talked about our work purpose and happiness journey. And they were live on camera chatting with me facilitating, which is just so nice to get other people talking in an education session. And we talk about the continuum of your journey into retirement. You start with a full-time job, probably somewhere, wherever you can afford, right? Once you reach enough, you start to say, well, I might like to take Fridays off, and then I'm going to take long weekends, and I'm going to start building the lifestyle into the day I've made it. And you build a map. You say, okay, Fridays off, I'm going to start taking long weekends. I'm going to start doing a new sport. I'm going to start doing something with that one day I'm rewarding myself. And then I figure out how the money works. And I get more comfortable with how my spending and saving goes. And then I move to, hey, I'm ready to go to 2 days off. Then I find, hey, maybe I'd like to take one of those days playing with my young grandchild, or maybe I build a structure of having long sabbaticals once a year, and I use all my holidays at the end of the year and take 8 weeks of leave. Or you know, it doesn't matter how you do it, but this is a continuum, as I see it, and you move down the triangle, gradually stepping your way into retirement, building your confidence in your money, your lifestyle, your fulfillment. And then what happens is when you finally decide to retire, it's almost a natural thing that happens. It's not a massive rip out of a stage of life it's not a finish line. It's you know what? I've filled my life with other things now that are not active employment. And I am on the journey into a happy, fulfilling life, and I'm not defined by the income source that I had.
I think a lot of the issue is people fall off that retirement cliff instead of thinking it as a flight path and going
a long flight path. It could be years, and that's why prime time is a discussion now as we're getting to pension adequacy in Australia. Like we are seriously, for the 50-year-olds, they've had access to superannuation at above 9%, which is beyond yours, for their whole working lives.
So they've made significant contributions, right?
Yeah, and so they are going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their super funds, enough to have a comfortable retirement when they get there. Probably most Australians at 50, not the ones at 60. The ones at 60 are struggling with adequacy. They are going to keep struggling. There is going to be so it's two conversations I get to have. One about prime timers and one for epic retirees, where you got to make it happen with what you got. And down here you got the ones who still have time to use compounding and the power and the time and can adapt their lifestyle because they have enough. And it's a different conversation. But those conversations all need to be had. And they need to be had in the UK as well, I think. I
agree. Now, the interesting thing is that element, and you've talked about that Facebook community that you've got, that enables you to get real insights into what people are actually thinking.
All day long. So many insights. I could cry.
The tone of that comment is one of the reasons I'm glad I'm not on Facebook.
Look, it's wonderful. I have 20 global moderators just moderating that group 24 hours a day. They are all retirees and pre-retirees, voluntarily keeping that place clean. We don't allow financial advice in there to each other because it just becomes one guy's opinion against another guy's opinion, and then everybody gets bad advice. So we keep it squeaky clean because reputationally, I don't want my reputation attached to somebody having a poor experience of their journey. So I'd rather they learn where the facts are out of my books and my newsletters, and I don't play the algorithm. I don't give my lessons in the group very much. I share my content, but I actually write newsletters for Australia and the UK at epicretirement.net, because for me, not fighting algorithms is part of my definition of life. And I'm going to start a column in the Times as well, which is going to be fun.
Fab. When's that out?
Probably in November we're going to start. So I'm quite excited to be getting much more involved in the UK and bringing Epic in. Yeah,
love that. The bit I'm curious about is that element of what you've learned from the community. So help me understand what insights just those conversations happening in the community have given you, and how has it informed your perspective and your work?
Look, a lot of it I've already known. I've known about the pain of transition. I know I wrote about them all in Epic Retirement before I delivered the book. So that before I got the group. So I guess the journey has been constantly helping new waves of people validate that they're normal. That's actually the biggest part of this. Most people think they're going through it the wrong way, that they're feeling something that other people aren't feeling, because people suffer retirement behind closed doors. They suffer the ego hits of getting made redundant, and they retract into their own private space and have to work out who they are before they can come back out in the world. They feel afraid, they feel nervous, they feel financially inadequate, and they do that all in the privacy of their own home. And this gives people a place for the upside of Facebook. There's also the downside of Facebook, where they can see and watch other people who are willing to share their stories and their journeys and normalize. And I always ran my first business the same way. It was a massive Facebook community of people normalizing what 60 was. So it was called Starts at 60. It's still around. But that platform was about, back then when I started it, by the end it moved more in a direction I didn't love, but it was about normalization and blogging and things like that of that phase of life, from people that age telling their stories. And so that kind of journey of how we normalize retirement for people when it isn't what it used to be, right? That's actually the biggest part.
I think it's so interesting, isn't it? Like, you think about that perception of retirement, and it's a challenge that we need to face alone. When in actual fact, I think any period of change, if you get the right support, can be a bit of a team sport, right? And that community is that element of just finding other people to help you go on that journey, right?
Yeah, that's right. And not a lot of this generation, right? And I speak of my own generation as well as the older one. Not a lot of them are, let's go see a psychologist to tackle our hard bits, right? So we're doing it in the dark, and it's hard and it's scary, and it doesn't feel like many people are doing it alongside us because everybody's got their Instagram face on, right? Everything's so perfect in my life, you know? And it's like life just isn't perfect. It's full of fears and speed bumps, and
life is messy.
Yeah, it is messy, and midlife is messier than and then what I'd call this age group, retirement. You have more transitions in this phase of your life than you've ever had before. You lose partners and friends, and you lose jobs, and you lose identity, and you lose financial security, and you lose all the foundations you understood. They all break at some point, and you have to reestablish your goals, your hopes, your dreams several times. You know, and we don't make that normal or easy.
That transition doesn't stop as well. You know, that transition just, as you say, if we're on a flight path and that flight path's really long, you're in a position where the change is gradual, potentially. If you do it on the flight path, it can be.
I think it's easier to adjust to. I don't think you then get the shocks of an ending, because endings suck, right? Endings where we have a hard, cold ending in any stage of our life, whether it's the end of a relationship, the end of a workplace relationship, the end of a business, the end of anything is really hard.
I think for us, and I'm writing about this in the book that we're publishing on this next year, I really like the idea of, and it's in a book by Bill Burnett called Design Your Life, that incremental, low-cost experimentation to get to the life you want. And actually, incremental low-cost experimentation isn't big. It's just getting gradually to a point where you're living the life you want. And that's exactly what you were talking about.
And it takes time. And if you accept it's a journey, not a finish line, it's actually can be quite an adventure. I look at everything I'm doing now as my prime time. I'm 50 this year, and I'm now looking at life through my own lens that I've written about, that I view that, okay, I've reached almost enough. I haven't reached enough, but I've got enough to... that if my husband and I keep working and the kids eventually fly free, we'll be okay, right? We could sell the house and downsize. We could have a perfectly adequate lifestyle. Sure, I'm going to keep working because I enjoy working on what I'm working on today. But if you'd asked me to keep working on what I was working on 3 years ago, I'd have a time limit. Right? I don't have a time limit on the type of work I do, but I certainly want to go through. I'm in a busy patch right now, and I'm rationalizing that to myself as I don't want my life to be at this pace all the time. I am now in a surge, and I'm going to push myself back from surging by the end of the year, right? And I will be in a patch where I enjoy the pace and the lifestyle of it. And then I'm actually going to enjoy the adventure. I'm writing this book for the UK because, do you know what? I want to be on an adventure. I don't want to rise up hierarchically in a job where I get a pay rise and a this and a that. I just want to see what happens if.
I mean, it's really interesting because I think it's a stage in life that we all go through. And I had this interesting conversation with my coach the other day, where we've experienced a lot of growth in the business, and I was tying my expectations about the future to that number, and actually that number becomes increasingly irrelevant. And then you turn around and go, and she went, "Well, just play." Just be more playful with it. Just enjoy the next phase.
Well, I'm trying to be playful, right? Every now and then you catch yourself getting serious, and you go, serious isn't that much fun. And in fact, serious requires you to get up every morning the same way and have the same routines. And I quite like routine, but I like success, but more I like to be curious. And I'm really enjoying the curiosity of taking the time, having the time to do, things that don't make money, things that are because I have things that are purposeful, and I have things that make me money. And I know the things that make me money, and they're okay. That's how I keep the food on the table. But if I can do them in a certain container and then have the other things I'll do no matter what, because I just bloody love them. Like I write a column for the Australian newspapers around the country that pays freelance rates. It's not something you would spare a day or half a day for. But I love doing that, right? That to me is a passion about stirring up people's education through a channel they're already reading in 1 day a week. Love it.
And actually finding work you love
Yeah.
is key, isn't it?
And you get a little bit of pay for it. Well, that's a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Once you get to enough. It's tough for people to say that before they get to enough. And I do think we have to be very aware in the UK right now. There's an awful lot of people that are not at
Who
enough.
aren't there? 100%. And it's definitely a conversation.
I should tell you about the other pillars though, shouldn't I?
Please
So
do.
we didn't dive deep into work, purpose and happiness. Purpose and happiness are really scientific, because I reckon this generation struggles with the woo-woo, the hippy-dippy stuff. I think they don't really want to do wellness, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm generalizing too much, but when I come in to talk about how to be happy and how to be purposeful, I want the science. I want you to tell me the formula. I want to understand the mechanics. I want to understand what I can do. And I speak to women and men. So, the men are more mechanical. They've been working in structural careers for much of their lives. They're not looking for creative arts. They're looking for what are they going to do to get from here to there and be happy. And there is some science and there is some structure that you can give people in this on how the science of happiness rolls out, the 3 different types of happiness, the ways to seek each one so that you don't just seek hedonism and short shots of dopamine. You actually look for long-standing, underpinning types of happiness. And if you talk to any retiree who's pulled back and sitting on the couch, they're missing both types of happiness. They're missing dopamine hits, but they're also missing long-standing, purposeful activity in their life that gives them a reason to create structure and meaning.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? That hedonism, eudaimonism, like the Greeks said it.
Eudaimonic happiness, very important.
Years ago, didn't they? That hedonism, eudaimonism.
Eudaimonic happiness.
Eudaimonic well-being or happiness. And then that Charonic awe-based happiness, like walking in nature and being at a concert, or if you're religious, getting involved in that.
And community. Like we just forget social and community happiness, right? We can dive down into that one, and it doesn't have to be purposeful. When we go and do community activities, we can just do them because we want to be amongst others like us, and we feel a sense of belonging. And that people need 3 things in life. They need money. Yeah, they have to have money to put the roof over their head and the lights on. They need to feel loved, right? And that's a fundamental thing we need in life. And they need to feel like they belong. Yeah. And without those 3 things, you don't have a good life.
I love that.
Right.
I love that.
And that for me is everything. If we can teach them where they belong in the next phase, if you don't feel like you belong in the next phase, we've got to teach you how to find places to belong again.
You've got a real beauty in your work about simplifying that. But we know that it's simple, but not always easy, right?
That's exactly right.
What's the first step to help people get to a point where they feel lost, they feel a bit
by the book
alone?
In December?
By the book is the answer, right?
That'll be the first answer I'll give you in December, but you can't buy it now. It'll be on sale next week, actually. But the first step is actually about acknowledging where you are on the journey. You've got to say, hey, I am in a transition. I need to re-identify. I'm either stuck because I had an ending, but I didn't go through the neutral zone very well, and I didn't try to find green shoots. So I'm stuck in the neutral zone, feeling a bit lost and a bit empty and a bit sad and feeling like I'm struggling, but I don't want to tell anyone and I'm hiding it. And, that's pretty normal. Yeah. And so if I say, well, the first thing you got to do is acknowledge that to yourself. Nobody else. You don't have to tell anyone. And then you have to start experimenting. You don't have to have the answer. You just have to go on a curiosity festival 100%. And just start, right? And some of it might be, what do you like? Do you even know? Because a lot of people at 48, 50, 55 or 60 have been doing things for everyone else in their family for so bloody long that they have, and their workplace and all their other obligations, that they have lost their identity completely.
I mean, some of the conversations I've had with people where they've said, I've been climbing this ladder, I'm on top of the building, and I've realised I'm on the wrong building.
Well, I have I have an analogy on that in prime time. And the analogy is that we go up the ladder for the first half of our life, and then we realise that we're actually on a pole and it's really slippery.
Yeah.
But you have a choice at that point. When you're at that point of the ladder, that you can move onto a lattice. You can decide where you want to go, whether it's sideways, whether it's down, whether it's get off completely. Whether you want to climb the pole, because you can. There's a few spots up the pole for people who want to climb, and there's not as many spots after 50, 55. So the pole thins out, your ladder turns into a pole, it gets harder to get up. But I think if we get calmer about taking the lattice and finding what interests us, whether that's work, whether that's purposeful activity, that for me is where I teach people in their 50s to go instead of up the ladder anymore, if they're not set for up the ladder. I don't think I want to go up the ladder.
Their lives, right?
And you've just got to give yourself permission, because otherwise what happens in this phase is you feel embarrassed or ashamed that you don't want to go up the ladder anymore, because that's how people used to judge people. Right. We used to judge each other by did you get up the next rung on the ladder? Oh, well done, Chris.
What does it mean, though?
Amazing. But is that how we should judge happiness and success in this phase of life, if life is 95 years long?
But you've covered it already. Actually the key to happiness is enough money.
Yeah.
But friendship and community and feeling loved and part of the tribe. And often we ignore those bits for the desire to chase more money, which is an interesting one, because we ignore those elements of
you'd be the richest person in the graveyard, mate. Isn't that a claim to fame?
100%. Right. I've loved today. So
I've got 2 more pillars that you should know about. I'll just tell you what they are. We don't have to go into them. Because I ran a travel business for over 60s, Australians are phenomenal travelers, right? We live to travel in our retirement years. So, for me, teaching people how to get amazing deals on travel and how the secrets of the travel industry work, and how to organize your travel so that you get travel while you're healthy and you don't get stuck in the insurance challenge of later life, and just giving everybody some structure of the most popular trips that people take and teaching them a bit of voyeurism around travel.
It's so interesting. I love to travel. So I think the opportunity. I was in the Amazon rainforest last year, staying with the tribe, and that was just the most eye-opening. And that for me is all about curiosity, because it's all about just how do other people live their lives and what we can learn from those experiences. It's a really incredible thing. And really interestingly, we do all of this stuff on the What Happens Next channel about purpose and meaning. Our most popular video is 12 destinations you should consider when you're retired.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So it's so interesting that. So travel is a big one.
I got a massive travel section in my book coming to the UK that is written for the UK. Like everything in this book has been rewritten for the UK. And then the last one is actually the hardest section in the book, other than the last section, which is like the tough stuff. But the last section is called Your Home as You Age, because I think too many people in both our countries are going from the big family home to aged care without steps that take them through a more comfortable path.
Yeah.
And the fact is, aged care is going to change for both our countries, because they can't afford to run everybody who's in the boomer generation and the X generation into aged care. So they have to provide more in the home. And we are going to need to get good at predicting our own time to downsize.
Yeah.
And finding, age appropriate housing without little stairs, without things we fall down and break hips, so that we can bring care into the home. Because most of us will have to pay for that ourselves over time. Yeah. Governments are paying for it now, but it'll become something the government's chicken out on somewhere along they're chickening out in Australia from this year.
I mean, in the UK, there's a real issue about care cost.
Yeah, we've got a huge problem here.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, and this is one of the interviews that was really insightful. We had an expert in helping older people move that we interviewed for What Happens Next, and that was really insightful, because it's actually the challenges that people face. And I've had clients who have gone on this journey, and going from a home to care, of residential care, is not a journey many of us want to take, right?
We should. I mean, you can take preventive steps. I'll be honest. Unless you're unlucky enough to get Alzheimer's or dementia, there's actually some there's actually some wonderful steps you can take. If you're in a single floor house where your bathroom is easy to manage and you don't have to step into a tub, which how many UK houses do you have to step into a tub? Hello. You've thought out how you are going to be able to access care in your home in your 80s and 90s. and you go, right, okay, well, I don't want to pay for care that's going to clean multiple rooms that I'm never going to use. I don't want to pay for, because that's what happens is we end up paying not just for healthcare and people to come and help us dress and shower, but we end up paying for housing maintenance and maintaining gardens that we don't need to be having in our
houses that are too big for us, right?
Yeah, and we don't acknowledge it today. And today's 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds are juggling parents out of those houses straight into aged care. So they should be smart enough to make better choices, but we still don't like admitting our mortality to ourselves. But
this comes, I mean, I'm a planner. It sounds like you're quite a planner too.
Oh, my plumbing's not always done, but I'm good at the structure for it.
Yeah. But this is the interesting thing, isn't it? What's the gap between planning well and like just creating a plan that works and then actually taking action towards it? And what do you?
Oh, real life, man, it gets in the way.
Yeah.
Real life is a bastard, right? You then have to choose at 70 to move into an apartment, and then you have to pay body corporate or corporate fees every year from then on, and you have to decide that that's a lifestyle you want to give up the garden. You have to make a choice, right? And those are hard choices. I had a friend, and I had a friend's family members who lived in Sydney in a big family house in their 70s, and the dad knew his health was in decline. The daughter, the oldest daughter, which is often where they anchor themselves in their old age, lived in the Gold Coast. So, and that she had grandchildren of theirs and everything. So they decided, or he decided actually, that they should move to the Gold Coast while both of them were alive.
Yeah.
While they could both sort out the big house together, they could make this wonderful move of refreshing their furniture and getting rid of all the stuff that didn't matter. And then they could, if his health went downhill in the next 5 years, which he suspected it would do, she would be based in a new community with people around her by then, with the daughter nearby, with the grandkids nearby to occupy, with a sense of family that wasn't in Sydney, because all the children lived in Melbourne and Queensland, states of Australia, a long way away, a bit like, the whole distance of the UK.
Yeah.
And so they did it. And the reality is that now they've got rid of all the crap. The house is gone. The big house is gone and nobody's missing it. They're living in the Gold Coast, having a beautiful time in the sunshine, a simpler life with a caravan that they take off in. He's still going, but he will feel comfortable that she's in a place, because women live longer. That's the other conversation we don't have with ourselves. And we don't prepare ourselves as women for living alone, needing more care later in life, in the right types of housing, with financial literacy. Man, we could teach all women that, and men who have women. We'd all be better off.
But you're right. It's having the agency to take action and just making choices, isn't it?
Retirement is all about agency. And if I can give people the agency to make good choices, get good advice, come and get advice when they're ready, but come into advice knowing why you're getting advice so that you get the right advisor. Because in Australia, it's a very confusing system. I'm sure it's the same in the UK, where you turn up for advice, but you're not quite sure whether you've got the right type of advisor, or they do some kinds of investing and not others. And that can be quite perplexing for the person experiencing advice. And then the advisor gets a bad rap because the consumer didn't know what they were coming in for.
Yeah, and I'm an advocate for the right people getting the right advice. It's not always appropriate to get advice from somebody like me.
I think so. I think it's important.
But again, I think the key factor is choice. But I also think the key factor is finding somebody who appreciates the money as a tool to enable you to live your life.
So fundamental.
Not in the accumulation of the pot forever is the goal. The goal is actually to spend it on the life you want, and having nuanced.
And that's a whole generational shift we've got to make about money, because our parents tried their hardest to squirrel away whatever they had without pension schemes. They had, and in the UK, they had DB, right? You guys had beautiful retirement systems that helped everybody come through this journey differently. Right. And now you've got to adjust to DC. That's a big, holy cow. Yeah. Complete financial independence. Let's throw you in the fire.
It's been a generation generational change in Australia, right? You know,
Yeah,
like,
but we've done it over a longer period. We're 33
Yeah,
years into this system, right? And it
so
started at very low percentages and it crept up. So we never felt like we were taxed by our system. It's at 12% now that we contribute out of
yeah.
our wages, but nobody is angry about it like they
But
are
the
in the
smart
UK.
thing is they did it incrementally, right? You know,
Yeah.
they made incremental.
You don't have the
slow
time
changes.
now.
Yeah,
You don't have
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, no, that's it. One last thing. I'm going to give you a magic wand, and
Oh,
there's one thing that you can change about how we perceive both prime time and retirement. What would you change?
I would change our level of agency. I would
Yeah,
change our level of curiosity and interest in how we can have a good life, because I think most people leave it too late and then they have to work with what they have. But if they got in and did a setup phase earlier, they could have a magical prime time and an epic retirement. And that I can get to every 50-year-old with, but I'm quite happy if we can just give people epic retirements in the UK now. And just imagine what you do if you take control of the situation you're in today. Take absolute control. It's not your advisor's fault or problem. It's not your pension fund's fault or problem.
It's up to you to make the
It's
choice.
up to you. If I have this quote I stick on my wall, and I stuck it on my wall when I left my old business. And well, I have two quotes actually. I'll tell you both of them. One is, if it's to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And the other one has been on my wall for 15 years and I move it with me if I move offices. And it says, some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, and others make it happen.
Love it. And that is the perfect end for the interview. Bec, I've loved today.
Thank you.
I'm looking
Me
forward
too.
to our pickleball and paddle tennis tournament. That'd be epic.
That's going to be fun, man.
That's gonna be epic.
I better learn how to do it.
I'm on for a pickleball lesson now. I'm cancelling my day. I'm going to go.
I'm totally jealous.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.